The King of Fighters. Select member.
Aw, I wanted the other Futaba sibling. Ah well, guess we'll just have to make do with the dude who's known for being absolutely busted every time he shows up. Fitting for his appearance, Gato may look like an intimidating character to try and use when you first take a look at that move list. And I won't sugarcoat it, there's a lot to remember here as his success hinges on 2 specials that have 6 enders apiece if you count doing nothing as 1. But once you get the memorization part of what does what, you'll find that his offense is actually much more simple to execute than it looks. And you'll also be rewarded with a character that has some of the most suffocating pressure in the entire game, thanks to his 2 specials having so many possible avenues that it forces your opponent to react and guess rather than predict. Now, he doesn't have the best anti-airs in the world, and he's not too effective outside of close range. But aside from those 2, and the fact that it's easy to mix yourself up with his various follow-up options, this is a strong character. Oh, and to solidify himself as a strong character, Gato barely needs any meter to do significant damage. Just 1 to 1.5 will do nicely. Point is my recommendation due to that, but really, this guy can go anywhere and excel. Gato's normals have above average speed and have a bit more range than most others in the game. However, they do have significant pushback which can mess up some combos. When it comes to unique cancels, things are a bit limited. Only far punches can be cancelled, while crouching heavy punch is the only one that can be whiff cancelled. First command normal is Chin Breaker, forward plus light punch. Standard stuff here, it's the usual KOF overhead that stops being an overhead if it cancels a normal, used as either combo filler or to start out a max mode combo on a crouching opponent. The second command normal for Gato is Tranquil Kick, forward and light kick. An odd move at first, since it doesn't have any unique hit properties like being an overhead, nor can it cancel into anything. But with the hop it has, this move can be used to avoid low attacks and counter ground-based projectile tossers. And with the forward movement, speed, and it being barely negative on block after some normals, it's a surprisingly effective pressure tool. 2 specials will take up a massive chunk of this video, but before we dive into those, let's go over his other 2 specials first, as their breakdowns will be much simpler. Starting with Quaking Fang, quarter circle forward and punch. This palm thrust will serve as combo filler, a super setup, or combo ender depending on the situation, and it can also destroy projectiles if timed right. Light version goes the fastest, heavy has more startup, sends Gato further forward and hits harder. Then there's the EX version that has the power of the heavy, the speed of the light, and the ability to destroy EX projectiles, and it causes a crumple. Very good move here, which has a follow-up that can be done with forward plus punch that you really don't have a reason not to do unless you're using the EX version or super cancelling the first hit. Now for a not as great but still good move, Lightning Fang, Z motion forward and kick. This is Gato's anti-air special, and holy hell does this move do some damage compared to other anti-airs in the game. And thank heavens this move is so risky, or it would easily be one of the best moves in the game. Light and EX versions of this move have that brief upper body invincibility that comes standard with these types of moves, and while the heavy version has no armor to speak of, it does include the ability to hit the brakes if you input both light attack buttons right as the first hit connects. Like I said with Rock and Jenny, this is something you should practice getting down if you want to use Gato, as a break special is crucial for many combos. Okay, now it's time to get to the big boys. The specials that will cause your opponents to quake in fear. Let's start with the terrifying Wind Fang, quarter circle back and kick. Okay, it doesn't look all that horrifying by itself, but once you get a handle on its follow-up options, this will cause your opponents to start browning their pants. But before we get to those, let me just mention real quick the differences between each version. The light version travels the shortest distance, the heavy travels the furthest and causes a soft knockdown, and the EX version has the distance in between the light and heavy versions, the jump is faster, it gains the ability to destroy non-super projectiles, and it changes the follow-up properties. And getting into that now, the first follow-up is Break. Yes, just like Lightning Fang, this move can also have the brakes applied if you press both Light Punch and Light Kick right as the move connects. This doesn't have too much purpose mid-screen other than corner carry, but in the corner this is a good move for setting up Gato's juggle combos. This can only be done with the heavy or EX versions of Wind Fang, but I really don't think you should do an EX break. You don't get any extra damage or mid-screen combos from it, so just use the heavy. Next up is Vortex Fang, Light Punch after Wind Fang. This is the closest thing Gato has got to a projectile, so it's something to use if you want to keep opponents at a distance for some reason, or if you want a block string ender that's guaranteed to be safe. If you use the EX version of Wind Fang before using this ender, the attack will do a bit more damage and send the opponent flying in the air, setting them up for some combos. Not too helpful outside of the corner, but when there, this is a solid move. Whirling Fang, done by pressing Light Kick after Wind Fang, is an ender that provides good corner carry. And like EX Vortex, this move is good for corner combos when used after a heavy Wind Fang. The EX version of this move sends the opponent more vertical than horizontal, making this a quality startup for juggle combos anywhere on the screen. The next two are your mix-up options. Arrow Fang, done with the press of Heavy Punch, is Gato's overhead ender. Good to throw out during a block string to catch any opponents that are crouching, and it also doubles as a fine pressure option as this move will leave Gato plus on hit. And it's possible to have it equal or even be plus on block depending on the timing. The EX version does significantly more damage than the normal version, and it causes a soft knockdown. You can actually use this version for corner combos, but considering the lack of vertical knockback compared to Whirling Fang and the extra bit of recovery that Arrow Fang has, I wouldn't recommend it. The last follow-up option for Wind Fang is done with Heavy Kick. This will give you Sliding Fang, the other mix-up option. This one is notably unique from the others, as this one only works if you hit the button right when Gato starts falling towards the ground. If you press it too early, you get nothing. Also, as you can guess, this move hits low, but as this follow-up is the only one that hits after Gato lands on the ground, you can super cancel this move. The EX version of this move adds two extra functions other than the light damage boost. First off, it causes the opponent to get popped up into the air, which sets them up for a juggle combo, and second, Gato will slide towards the opponent regardless if he lands in front of the opponent or behind them. Really damn good mix-up option. So that was one of Gato's big specials, and the second one may look a bit familiar. That's because Backdraft Fang, done with quarter circle back end punch, is literally the same move, just with a different set of follow-ups, with Break being the only move that both Wind Fang and Backdraft Fang share. Let's go over this next set. Swift Fang is done with Light Punch after Backdraft Fang. This move isn't an attack, but rather a nice horizontal movement option. If used from a distance, it can close the gap, although that can be a bit dangerous. And personally, I like using this move for corner escapes, but it's versatile enough to be used in a multitude of ways. Last thing, the EX version makes Gato dash forwards faster. Now, with all these Backdraft and Wind Fang moves, you may be wondering why you can't just hit Gato with an anti-air move and be done with it. Well, actually you can do that, but you're taking a risk there since Gato has the aptly named Counter-Attack Fang by pressing Light Kick. This is a very damaging counter that works like Ryo's parry if it had an instant attack right after the block. Also, this move can block anything, and again, I mean anything. EX version of this move does a bit more damage and causes a hard knockdown. Cypher Fang, done with Heavy Punch, is the grapple follow-up. So if you've got an opponent that's blocking, this is yet another option Gato has to possibly break through that. Now, I should point out that you can't actually grab someone in block stun, but if you time it correctly, you can grab someone right as they get out of block stun. Like Counterattack Fang, the EX version of this move does more damage and causes a hard knockdown. The last follow-up move to go over is Fang of Darkness, done with Heavy Kick. This is a feint version of Sliding Fang that's meant to draw out an unsafe counterattack that Gato can then punish. Also like Sliding Fang, the EX version of this move makes for a surprisingly effective mix-up option, as Gato's backdash can phase through opponents. Can't say I've seen too many double side switching moves. So, that was Gato's long list of specials. Thankfully the supers are much more brief and easier to go over. Starting with Freeze Fang, which is done with a double quarter circle forward and punch. This super does a bit more damage than the other and has better horizontal range. This will be the super you're more than likely going to go to for most combo enders. Doesn't mean that Dragon Fang, double quarter circle forward and kick, should be discarded though. This is more of a reversal super against jumping opponents. It's got quick startup, invincibility on startup, and good vertical range. But as a drawback, this has like no horizontal range to speak of. You have to be touching noses for it to connect. Not something you want to use to end most combos. As you can see, Gato's got a lot of options, which can be overwhelming for both the opponent and whoever is using him. This is a character that's going to require a good amount of practice to get down, but once you can shift the memory banks in your head to remember all the follow-ups to Wind and Backdraft Fang, you've got a character with devastating damage and mix-up ability. Get an opponent into the corner with Quaking Fang and they're going to have to guess right on which of 12 possible outcomes is headed their way. Odds are not in their favor. If you're up against Gato, then your main objectives are going to be staying mid-screen and keeping him at a distance if the option is there. If it isn't, you're going to have to play the dangerous game of trying to hit Gato first, right after he starts up that Wind or Backdraft Fang. The edgy Futaba sibling guide is complete, along with Team Garou. I'm deeply sorry for suddenly going silent on the uploads for a bit there. Please check out the pinned comment if you don't mind. Another request from me is that you please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and or leave a comment below if you enjoyed or found this guide helpful. I'll see you guys next time with a new team. Until then.
That was a nail-biter! Keep an eye on this matchup! Winner!
幹部なきまでに叩き潰した。起き上がれはしまい。